All right, welcome to episode 12 of Brothers Y'all Good. My name is Mike, and I'm here with my brother Jason, and we are excited about the show tonight. Jason, tell them what's good.
Man, what is up, everybody? We are super excited as always as we continue in our 12th episode. We got two of my good friends on here today. Two folk, we all go to church together, so we all know each other, and super blessed and happy to be here. And let me ask you, Mike, brother, you good?
Man, I'm good. I'm so good because I'm excited about tonight, and I just can't wait to get it in. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jason. You good?
Man, actually, I can't lie, man. I have an interview tomorrow for a position at work, and it's something that suits me well. It's something I've been doing for over 20 years, but something about the interview, man, and it's a public information officer position. So it's like to be
that's
like
all
the
you.
face of the department, right? But like for some reason, if I got to try to talk to you and there's a chance that I could lose, there's something, it adds an added pressure. But you put me in front of 50,000 people right now and tell me to talk about anything, I could do it with no problem. But for some reason, but I'm excited for opportunities. And so ultimately I'm good. These are good, really good problems to have. So take it away, Mr. Mike.
All right. Well, man, this is the night. I was talking to these brothers last night. And I said, when we were talking about doing a program for the D9 fraternities, the order we were going to do it, start with the alphas, kappas, Qs, and sigmas, and iotas. But this was the one I was excited about because I knew who the brothers were that we might be able to get on. And I knew if Jason could hook it up, and that's why I trust everything too. Jason, make it happen. And so Jason was like, I got them. Even if they're not in town, we're going to get them online. We're going to make it happen. And so these are brothers that I've known for a little bit. They're members of the same church at Bayview. I know Lawrence primarily through his mom, who I've known most of his life. I knew her before she was a colleague of mine on the bench. She was one of my first mentors when I was in law school, and she was an attorney for SDG&E before she even got on the bench. It was wild years later, when we both found ourselves on the bench. So I've known Lawrence, about him at least, since then. And then Bradley, I've just met in the last couple months, but this is the one. So we're going to talk to some Qs, and I know it's going to get real and it's going to be raw because they were telling stuff last night. So if we get just a little bit out of them tonight, we're going to be in a great position. So Jason, go ahead and introduce these two brothers to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Before I do, I just want to let y'all know, man, Brothers Y'all Good is more than just a podcast. It's a real talk space where Black men can come through, open up, and get honest about mental health. This show is going to dive deep into the stuff that matters. We talk about faith, fatherhood, fellowship, and all the ups and downs of navigating life as a Black man today, from dealing with stress, anxiety, trauma, to breaking through the stigmas that's been holding us back. This podcast aims to keep it real with personal stories, expert advice, and practical tools to help you find peace and strength. But this ain't just talk. It's about building each other up, sharing experiences, and creating a healthier, stronger community. So we're glad that y'all pulled up, glad that y'all tuned in, and let's get after it. Let's have the conversations that heal. Together, we're breaking the silence, overcoming barriers, and helping every brother to say, yeah, brother, I'm good. So welcome to episode 12. I can't wait to get it in. These are two of my favorite people that I know, both of them for different reasons. And so what I'd love for y'all to do first, I met Lawrence almost 7 years ago. I was introduced to him by a judge, Judge Rod Shelton, who I found out later on is also a member of their fraternity. He called me and said, hey, I got a young brother that is looking to get into the fire service. Can you help him out? When the judge calls, just like when Judge Washington calls, when the judge calls, you do what the judge says, because you never know when you might need to hook up from the judge. So I said, yes, sir. And that was all I needed. There was just something very, I believe, deeply spiritual about our connection. And it proved itself in time. So I'm very grateful to God that I met Lawrence. And then Bradley, I've known Bradley for probably 9 months, 7 months, something like that. Something. It's been a shorter time, but the friendship that has come as a result of it is a real testament to the type of person that he is. We've had some really dope conversations over the past few months, and I've grown to really, really appreciate him. And when I thought about this episode, we sort of talked about some of the other people that were going to represent the fraternities, and but this episode, I knew for sure that I needed to get these two men right here. And so I'm very, very grateful that you both decided to come up. And as I do every time in this Divine Nine stuff, I know that there's like a seniority thing or something that y'all do. So if y'all want to introduce yourself, I saw the movie before. I think it was School Days, where the guy was called Big Brother Almighty or whatever. I don't know, whatever. So I don't know if y'all do that here, but I'll let y'all introduce yourselves in whatever order y'all typically do. Man, why don't y'all give us a little bit of who you are? Introduce yourselves.
Yeah, so my name is Lawrence Trapp. I'm a proud member of the Omega Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I came into the frat in 2020. The funny thing about School Days is I actually went to the school where that movie was filmed. I graduated from Morehouse College.
Hey!
I am not Big Brother Almighty. But yeah, I'm a San Diego native, born and raised. I grew up in Southeast San Diego, spent a lot of time in National City with my grandfather. I really love San Diego. Like I said, I graduated from Morehouse College. I've been very, very, very fortunate to have had so many experiences in just the small amount of time that I've been living, from school, going to a historically Black college, the best historically Black college. I'm a military veteran. I've had many different jobs in so many different capacities. And life has been life. And I'm grateful for what I do have. And I'm looking forward to being able to contribute to this conversation tonight. Thank you.
Yes, sir, man. Super, super, super glad you're here. Thank you. How about you, Bradley? Just let us know a little bit about you.
All right, my name is Bradley Hildreth. I've been in the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated for I just came in 22, so about 3 years now. Love it. One of the best decisions I've ever made. I'm from Dallas, Texas, born and raised. Love Texas. Okay, love Texas. But I came into San Diego via the Navy, and so just happy to be here. I'm just a regular guy doing regular things for an extraordinary God. You know what I'm saying? Meeting really great people along the way, and so I'm just happy to be here and be present.
Man, well, we are super glad that you're here, and one of the things that, okay, let me ask you this. So we never really did this before, but so how do people know when Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is in the building? How do people know? What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? Because Mike told me it's probably gonna get a little wild today, because y'all must have some kind of a reputation of being the ones that know how to get the party started and keep it going. So how do people know when Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is in the building?
You got it, 22.
It's as simple as this, right? Most people got to make this whole big old thing. If an Omega man walks into the room, you already know he's there. It's set, so you're gonna know he there, right? But it's a simple, you know what I'm saying? And that's it. You know what I'm saying? You already know what it is. Like, we ain't gotta do all this. I ain't gotta call out no numbers. I ain't gotta do all that.
I love it. I love it. That's good stuff. Well, one of the things that we typically ask to start the conversation off is when we talk about mental health, what does that mean to you, Lawrence? When you hear mental health, what comes up for you when you start thinking about that?
You know, that's changed over the years. And I think that that's exactly what it is. It's always evolving. It's a journey. Who I am today is not who I was 5 years ago. It's not who I was a year ago. It wasn't who I was 6 months ago. We're always growing, not just physically. We're growing emotionally, we're growing spiritually, and we're growing mentally. So I've learned that this is, this continuous work on mental health is something that is going to be a lifetime.
Okay. What, when you say it, what is the it that you're talking about? It is going to be a lifetime. What is that it for you?
Just this whole idea of what it means to be mentally well, mentally sound, mentally aligned. I used to say, it was a point in time where I felt like I had my physical health in order. I felt like I had my mental health in order, but my spiritual health was lacking. There was a time where I had my mental health somewhat in order, my spiritual health in order, but my physical health was lacking. So it is the idea that it's something that is always going to be present in our day-to-day lives. And with time and experiences, whether good or bad, it can change. And you have to be able to be aware of those changes and building these skills on how to kind of roll with them, these changes that happen in life.
That's good stuff. How about you, Bradley? When you hear mental health, what comes to your mind?
I used to think mental health just meant that you needed some type of pill. I ain't gonna hold you. So I was like, okay, cool. Mental health. I was like, okay, cool. Mental health is extreme, right? That's what I thought it was when I was growing up. I've come to understand that mental health has more to do with your spiritual than anything else, right? Because they're all interconnected, right? If you find a man or any person that has a lot of anxiety, you can link it to a spiritual understanding, right? Something's off balance, you know what I'm saying, in their life and on their, mental is just I like to say this, just the physical manifestation of what's already happened spiritually within you. And so mental health is definitely a spiritual thing. And I'm not discounting that sometimes pill does help. I'm not gonna hold you. I believe in Jesus and therapy, but that is what it means to me,
Let me follow up with that, brother. So you said you used to believe in one thing and then now you believe differently. When and how did you go through that transition where you got to the place where you started seeing that it's more tied to the spiritual than you ever thought before?
I think what happens a lot of the time is when you're looking outside, right? You're outside looking in, it's different, right? You are, your summary of things is very different. Your scope is very limited. When you become the other person on the side of that, right? That is when you kind of change how you're moving. Because before then, it was something distant from me. When it became me, and I'm the person in need of all of the resources and the therapy and the counseling. Now it lets me know, okay, cool. There is something going on here that I really need to sit down and measure with, and so that's what hits me a little bit different, because now that I'm on this side and I did what normally is talked about in terms of dealing with your stuff, suck it up, do all this. I did that and it didn't work, right? I just put a little rubber band on a thing that needed to be soldered, right?
Wow. But that's what I'm trying to find out. What was it, a particular thing that was going on? Was it a series of things that were going on? What was it that helped you get to that period where you could see it from a different viewpoint than you had before?
Yeesh. And I say that just because I'm about to really let it go. When it comes to, so my dad died, my dad passed away, and me and my dad had a horrible relationship. I didn't really know him like that. He was a preacher on one side. On the other side of town, he might as well have been from here to Canada. But they knew this one person. I didn't know that person. I did not know that man. But I knew I needed to do something to get that together because I didn't want to be the dude in the produce aisle one day breaking down by the eggplant and the onions. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't do what I needed to do as a man to regulate these emotions, get those things under control, and really seek that. I think it's another thing when, COVID came, I knew my mental health was struggling. It was the first time I felt like depression, but I didn't have words for it. I did not have language for that. I was just like, all right, cool. I'm drinking a lot more than I'm used to. And I'm getting up before the sun comes out. I'm going home when the sun, is already down. And so my days were, without light for the most part. So it was just different things, different elements that let me know, your mental health happens in different stages.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I think this is a good place to park just for a second to sort of dig into that because I'm curious, what did you do when you obviously the behaviors are happening, you're drinking, you're staying up, you're doing all these things. What was it that caused you to pause and just go, hold on, I need to get recentered. I need it, or is that what happened? Is that what happened?
Friendship is essential to the soul. If you do not have good friends around you that do not know your normal, they don't know your temperament, it's easy for you to go into the black. It's easy for you to fade into the red because those individuals are who keep you on the straight and narrow. Hey, man, I noticed you ain't been at church lately. Hey, man, I noticed, you've been drinking a whole lot lately. Hey, man, I noticed that you usually are a happy person, but you've been ticking down in a downward spiral. I don't hear that jovialness that you usually come with. And so your friends, your family, they are the barometer that kind of steady you out. And so when they start to say, hey, because to be honest, we don't know. It's kind of like gaining weight, and it's worse because mentally you can't see it. But like physically, you can see yourself kind of gaining weight over time. You're like, yeah, I done put on a little bit or this don't fit quite no more. Imagine doing that with your attitude and your perspective and your emotions, right? That's what essentially happened to me. I had some good friends that could, see certain things. They let me know what was going on, had good pastors, good mentors. And so they let me know what was up.
Man. That's
and Lawrence, I saw you nodding your head as Bradley was talking about that. Tell me how that hit for you when he was saying that.
It's real. You gotta have some solid people in your life that are willing to call you out when things aren't going well. We're willing to go toe to toe with you, because I know me personally, I've had many different moments in my life where friends, family will call me out. I'll never forget this time I was home on break and my godfather pulled me to the side. I was drinking, I was living life very recklessly, and he pretty much told me, like, I don't like seeing your father worried about you. And that really hit me, because my dad's never said he's worried about me like that. But to have another man that knows me well come and tell me that my dad is worried about me, let me know that it must have taken my father a lot to go to him and say that. That stopped me in my tracks for a moment. But there are definitely other times where I might have, somebody comes to me and says, hey, you need to slow it down. I resist. So you got to have some people that love you even when you don't want to be loved, that's willing to go there with you to help reel you back in, whatever it takes. Yeah.
Was there resistance on your part? And this is for either of you when you're in that space. One of the things we hear is kind of a trend, and it's something that there's a lot of things that just back in the day, and y'all kind of young, so I don't want to date myself. Y'all kind of young, you know what I'm saying? You may not remember the days I'm fixing the reference, but there was a day where we didn't talk about mental health. right? Like that whole thing, Bradley, when you was talking about it meant to pill or you crazy, I ain't finna lay on nobody's couch. That was the idea of like, hey, you need to get counseling. We always thought, I ain't crazy. I ain't finna tell nobody nothing. And so it's funny how like just culturally, that whole idea of I thought mental health was this. So did either of you push back? Because it sounds like, okay, you got one person gave you some advice and you just totally turn your life around. You know what I mean? It's like, I got this one person that said, you're going the wrong direction. You said, okay, I'm going to turn the other direction. Is that really what happened? Or was that a process, right? Was that a process? And that's a question for both of y'all. So whoever want to go, why don't you go first, Bradley? Was that a process for you?
Definitely a process. I don't think people really understand the stigma that is behind mental health, and then the stigma that's associated with Black men, because we always have to be on. Right? It can happen, and I mean this with all due respect. It's okay for a white man to go sit on the couch. That's totally fine. Matter of fact, most of my white friends have been going to counseling their whole lives. Right? It was a big whoop for me when I started at like 32. I was like, oh man. He was like, yeah, I've had a therapist since I was 8 years old. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's what's up. But for us, if we had to go and talk to somebody and get pulled out of school or pulled out of class to go talk to somebody about your feelings, boy, you was gonna get lit up. They was gonna talk about you. Okay. You went to go talk about your feelings. Oh, you feel better now? Like that's a real thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just classroom. That ain't locker room. Then it's locker room. That ain't the streets when you get back to the crib and you got to go hang with your people. And then that's not even saying, women look at men in a particular light too. You mean my man would go sit on the couch and talk about his feelings? This new revolution didn't just like that took a long time to get here. So people have short memories, but I don't. Like I remember people making fun of people for that. So yeah, it's a process for sure.
Yeah. How did that? So what did you do in that process? Right? Like what did that process look like though? Right? When you're how did you navigate that mentality that people was gonna think this, or you know what I'm saying? I wonder who's looking at me, or what, you know what I mean? Like what made you finally say, I'm just finna do it because it's whatever?
I'm gonna be real with you. Once you see enough people die as a result of not getting what they need, when you see divorces happen because people didn't go out and get what they needed, when you see people fall from grace, and whether it be their job or their career, when you start to see that trend, and it's usually because they cried out for help, but one, we're not educated on the signs to look for those things, right? Two, you start to just really want to be okay. I'm realizing that manhood has a lot to do with understanding who you are, owning those parts. And once you accept the good and the bad, you can change everything from there. But if you don't accept those things about yourself, you can't move forward.
So it's basically you can hear all the stuff you want to hear, but until a person is willing to look and like identify with the stuff, all these people telling me all this stuff, let me stop and take a look and see like how much of this is really true, right? And how about for you, Lawrence? Like when you said, somebody said, I think you said your uncle, hey man, your dad's tired of worrying about you. Was it at that moment just that one thing that, like you said, let me like start? Was his words enough to sort of to change you, or was that the kickstart to the process, or like what was that like for you?
I definitely believe it was a kickstart to the process, but it took, up until recently on, to be honest, to finally have that moment of just like, when is enough enough? I cannot live like this. But I think ultimately, everybody's different. Some people may never have that opportunity to have that moment of realization that there's only one way I'm gonna be able to do something about what I got going on. And first, that's believing that what's going on is going on. As a man, as a Black man, I think there's a lot of insecurities that come with the idea of struggling, whatever your struggles may be. you know. And then on top of that, it's like, you know, you're hurting yourself even more trying to put on a facade, like, you know, that what's happening isn't really happening, you know. But I experienced some real, you know, some real trauma, some real pain that ultimately sat me down. And I knew in that moment that I don't know if I'll be able to live a full, fulfilling life if I don't really believe what's happening is actually happening, and it's been happening for quite some time.
It's real.
You know, it's interesting, and I think that goes right along with what Brad said. Like, you know, there's these cataclysmic events that tend to happen in people's lives, and that sort of push us towards this need to change. Once this event happens in your life, Lawrence, like once whatever the event was happens, how did you then like begin the process? Like, where did you start? Like to like unravel and like, you know what I'm saying? Where did you start? Where would a person begin that's in this moment? Like, where did you begin?
You know, I'm not even gonna sit here and act like I just woke up one day and decided like, okay, I'm gonna start. I need help, one, and I'm gonna make different choices, whatever. It was family that had to really like put their hands on me. And I say that not in like I'm gonna put my hands on you kind of way, but like
sure,
love on me even through all the problems, like had to truly love on me and almost kind of force me in a way, but not necessarily force, because ultimately I made the decision to give in, you know. But it's like how many more times are you gonna let people that you know that do genuinely love you feel worried, and you know they just don't know, you know. And thank God that, you know, I've always had God in my life. I wasn't always in line with God, and I feel like because of that I was able to really recognize like, okay, this is real. I'm all of this is happening for a reason, and I only have two ways to go about this. If I don't at least make an attempt to try to change things or get help to help me figure out how to change things, I might lose these relationships that I take for granted, like my mother, my father, my brother, friends, you know. And I've seen that happen to people,
right?
You know. And you know, whenever I see like homeless people out on the street, I always wonder who they were before they were there and what happened. Was there anybody that was there to try to help them to prevent this from happening? Because I know for a fact they didn't just end up there, you know. And I really did fear at one point that if I didn't make certain choices or at least try, that could be anybody, including me.
Let me, if you don't mind, Lawrence, let's stay there for just a second. Talk a little bit about what it was like for you when you had family members that were trying to, like you said, love on you, and you were not immediately just going, yep, whatever y'all say, I'm right behind you. What, if you could share with our audience a little bit, explain what was going on inside your head? Because you said earlier, everybody does it differently. And I've learned that some of the stuff we do kind of the same way. And so if people can hear you share how you got from that place, because I know there are people out there listening that have loved ones that are reaching out to them and they don't know how to take the next step. Help them understand how you took the next step to go from, yeah, I hear y'all talking to me, whatever, I'm gonna do me, to, yeah, I see what you guys are actually saying, and I'm making the choice to do something different now.
Yeah. So for me, no, keeping it 100, like I've struggled with substance abuse for pretty much since I started, you know, drinking, you know. at, you know, in college. I didn't grow up drinking. I was an athlete in high school, did really well. And it started back then, you know, first it was my mom saying little things to me like, hey, I think you have a problem. And I was like, Mom, you don't even party like that. I'm thinking this was supposed to be happening because I'm young, I'm in college, I'm with my boys. And there was moments where I was able to kind of slow down. But really what I'm realizing now, those moments was just to keep people like my parents, my brothers off my back.
That's funny how you when you do this, it makes reactions. That welcome to modern technology. Yeah, God forbid you do this and heart starts shooting out. Yeah, that was crazy. But welcome to technology, Lawrence.
Okay,
that was your moment. That was indicative of the moment, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. That's truly an aha moment. Wow.
Right.
That was
yeah. But yeah, you know, so it gets to for me, I had to stop trying to tune out what was being said to me and really sit down once 5 years, 6 years, 10 years passes by, and my levels of addiction has only gotten worse.
Right.
You know, and really thinking like, well, why do I do this every day? Because it got bad. And I don't remember the last time that I felt good with myself. I didn't like my life at the moment. Right. And so after if I'm gonna be honest, like I went through some serious trauma last year. Don't even know how to really start on that, but I had to move. I had to come home, and I'm grateful to have a home to come to. You know, and that was really uncomfortable for me. It was really uncomfortable for my people. You know, but there was just a day. My, you know, I think there's nothing stronger than a mother's love because she never stopped.
Right.
And it was just a day where she was just like, come on, let's go. I didn't know where we was going.
Right.
But come on, let's go. And wasn't, you know, wasn't gonna put up with my resistance anymore. Get in the car. You know, I'm 31 years old. I'm 32 now, by the time I'm 31, I'm like, but for whatever reason, I fell in. I got in the car, and it just got real for me in that moment. Like something needs to happen.
Right.
You know, my mother wasn't gonna quit. She wasn't gonna quit.
She's not. I know your mother. She is not going to quit.
And she's not. And you know, the other thing about that is there was an internal fear of me because I do have a relative that I've watched go from being this really charming, you know, good-looking dude who was a big personality to that person on the street. You know, and I kind of had this moment flashing before me, like, you know, she's not going to stop trying to push me to get to where I need to go. And if I don't make these decisions now, what's it going to be like when she's coming out there looking for me?
Right.
You know, and I didn't, you know, and at that, it was like, I don't want that to be my parents, you know, their memories of me as they get older.
Right.
You know, so, but again, there was still a level that I had to really sit down and think what's going on. I can't do this for nobody. This is ultimately for myself.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But once my brain started going in them kind of places, the more real it got for me. And it was kind of, I'm not going to say easier, but the more comfortable I got with accepting that, no, this is what it is. This is what it's been. And something's got to change now. So.
Man, thank you for keeping it real like that, man. I definitely love your mother, man. She is one of a kind. She's a mama, you know what I'm saying? But you know, everybody has the same testimony about your mother when they meet her. It's like she legitimately has the most, like, her poker face. You know what I'm saying? So as you're saying, she had these conversations. Your mother has a very stern look about her if you don't know. But when you get it, as I over the time, got a chance to sit and talk with her, I realized that she really is, she's intentional about talking from her heart. She's intentional. And I don't know if that's her legal thing, that which is, could have something to do with it, but she's naturally that way, right? And so, man, I can only imagine those conversations and what that feels like. And thank God that she had the fortitude to be able to say to you, as a grown man with a humongous mustache, you're not. So yeah, man. Yeah, Lawrence got to take 2 showers, ladies and gentlemen. He washes off his body with one, and he jump in and take a second shower, wash his mustache. It's a whole process. But he been on me this last week, so I owe him some public ridicule. So, but I'm grateful for your mother. How about you, Brad? Like, what I'm saying, same kind of idea, man. What was it like when the people are coming to you and saying, hey, man, or what I mean, your people are saying, man, you need to like address this, man. What's going on around here? What was it like for you?
I will say this and be frank with you. There's a correlation between people not being able to form community and make friends, and then the amount of mental health struggle, suicides, and things that we see now. Right? People aren't able to connect, and because they aren't connected, there's no one holding them accountable. There's no one looking out for them in their blind spots. Right? That's why you have friends by your side and things of that nature. For me, it happened to be that, right? I had some people that took a good look at me, some homegirls, some friends, some homeboys that were just like, hey, Doc, you don't sound like yourself. And it wasn't until I got a therapist, until I had, like I said, I had language for that. Because I did what people normally do. I'm kind of the go-to person. So people come to me and I'm gonna listen to all your stuff. Right. I'm gonna make sure you get what you need. I'm gonna make sure you get all built up, and I give you a good encouraging word. I'm gonna give you some Bible, and then I gotta go deal with my stuff. And I don't deal well with that. I'm a deflector by nature. You know what I'm saying? I know all of y'all have seen it. I'll get into a conversation with y'all, and it'll be about you for 90 minutes. And then that last 10, it'll be about me. And I'm gonna definitely redirect it to where we're going to eat. I'm gonna tell you what I think, and I never really tell you how I feel. And that was something that got pointed out to me. And then when I had to learn how to describe my emotions, that is the hardest thing I can ever do. So for me, it was the people showing me, hey, man, I'm not getting on this phone and talking to you until we have 20 minutes of you talking about yourself and what you're going through. I had friends that they did it. Yeah.
Talk about what that was like because I know how that is. That's a huge change when you're used to y'all talk all the time and I can be the listener versus, oh, you want me to share my story. Tell the audience what it was like for you to be in that position where it's like, oh, I got to talk for 20 minutes now about me.
Yeah. So my way around that, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and you can check this with most men. They're not really gonna tell you how they feel. They're gonna tell you what they think. And telling you what you think is not telling you what you feel. And people you gotta catch it, right? Catch it often. Because if you don't, that is the start of you not, that's when men are not really heard. I can tell you what I think. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do, but I can't tell you how I feel. And live in that uncomfortable silence. Right? Because men, we'll get silent, like, I don't know. Okay, cool, give me something. And just sit in it. And you should sit in it with your homies. Because if you're going to be my friend, you're going to be with me in my highs, you got to be with me in my lows. So, hey, man, until we can define it, let's do it. Let's Google some words and figure out how we feel. Because that's usually what I do. That's sad that I just admitted that out loud. But I had to Google. I'm like, how do I feel? I am melancholy. I had to look that up, dog. I'm not understanding how I feel. It's still one of the hardest things for me, man. I had to read a book. Matter of fact, it was a show that I watched called Atlas of the Heart with Brene Brown, where she describes like language. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a real thing. So I need to be able to really emote in that way. So yeah.
Man, that's probably, I would imagine, the hardest thing especially the older you get, developing all these bad habits about really not even bad habits, the habit of not being in touch with how we feel. You know what I'm saying? Like when if you're catching, I bet you I don't know if you like me, but every year I get this feeling, my throat starts itching, I start sniffing, and I already know it's allergy season. I already know it's allergy season. I already know it. I know what it feels like. It's happened every single year. I know exactly what's happening. I know when I'm sick versus when it's allergies, because it's just something that I've paid attention to over the years. It forces me to pay attention, but it's amazing to me how feelings don't do that. It's like I feel a certain way and I respond a certain way. But no one's ever stopped and said, this is actually what you're feeling. This is why you're doing this. And in our community, we don't talk about it. Is it, oh man, he just be mad. Dude's mad all the time. Well, we now know anger is a secondary emotion. There's something underneath the anger that is, you know what I'm saying? That's more than just, it's more than just like, oh man, dude just kind of he be tripping sometimes, you know what? No, like something is going on right now and our bodies are trying to let us know, but we're not in tune with those things. And so I'm curious to both of you, like, what was it like? And you both have similar stories in that way of being able to, you've said this a couple of times, Bradley, about the language for it. Now that you have language for it, what is life like for you now that you're in, now that you have the language? What has that done for you mentally, being able to name what you're like feeling and, being, what is that like for you?
I am going to be a complete 100% with you. I don't always have the language. I'm learning the language now. You know how it takes the time if you have like Duolingo, you start learning like the basics, you know what I'm saying? And just like putting certain sentences together and be like, cool, I am like in Spanish too of my feelings. Like I'm not I have not gotten to that high level. I can be like, blah, blah, yeah, I feel like this. It's like, I'm still figuring it out. But I'm botching it, but I'm doing a good job doing it. I'm getting along. Like I can survive. You know what I'm saying? Like if you drop me off in a different country and I had to speak that language and feelings, I could get back. I can get to and fro. But we ain't having no deep thought conversations in terms of language.
You're still like that now? You're still like that now? You're not comfortable doing it now?
And I'm gonna be real with you. I'm getting better at it, but it's just not my forte. And I want to speak to something that we talked about when I think how we get to the level of where we are when we don't know how to stay how we feel is because often when we are interacting with people, especially like women and our friends, they're gonna always ask us what we think before they even ask us how we feel.
Right.
They ask us out all the time. I'm always asked what I think, what am I going to do? Everything comes from this very cerebral look. Never how I feel about a situation. People don't want to know how I feel. Most people, they don't want to care about the man is a doer. What are you gonna do? Right? My car broke. What are you gonna do? Hey man, we got a problem down at the job. What are you gonna do? Right? You know what I'm saying? We got to do community. So what are we gonna do? And feelings is a tertiary emotion for us. But when it comes to like women and children, first thing, okay, cool. How you feeling today? And so now they've had time to like develop that language and do that. But that usually stops for us around like 9 or 10. It's, hey, you got homework. You got to go to school. Okay, how you feeling? Right? Set that up. So, yeah, especially in the military.
Right. So where did you go to start learning that language of emotions?
That's good. I got on somebody's couch. I definitely got on somebody's couch. I got in my word too. So when you really start reading the Psalms and you start seeing how like David really like expressed himself and emoted, cried, and got to the nitty-gritty and was angry. He displayed all of these emotions and he talked through it. That's really kind of the places that I'll start pulling from. And I'm a nerd, so I'm gonna go read a book. I'm gonna ask for a book. So when I'm in that, I'm in my session with my therapist. Hey, what book you got for me? You know what I'm saying? What can I read? How can I better deal with this, that, and the third? And so a lot of it is reading, but a lot of it experiential as well. There's a book that I just read called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And when I tell you, I've been praying, and then between my prayers, the sermons, the podcast that I was hearing, they all align with that book at the same time, because I understand now that pain is inevitable, but my suffering is optional. Right. And so now that I understand that.
Say that bar again. Say that bar again.
Yep. Your pain, everybody's going to go through pain, but suffering is optional. So an example is that if I want to I know I'm unhealthy and I need to go to the gym. Cool. The pain is getting up, making the schedule, going to the gym. Now, if I choose not to endure the pain, what I do is I sit there and then I start suffering. My health starts failing. My clothes stop fitting. My cholesterol starts, raising. I started perpetuating all the suffering because I didn't want to go through the pain of just going to the gym, going for the walk, doing the work. That's it. So a lot of the suffering that we go through, I can't take credit for this. It was the book.
No, just go on and own it, man. You'd be great tonight. Hey, I was gonna have you give me 7 feelings that you felt today, but I'm gonna give you a pass now. I was getting, oh man, that we can just hang up the podcast right now. I know Lawrence is coming right up behind you, but go ahead and finish your thought, man. That's great.
So that's it. A large part of our anxiety is just us suffering for no reason. Let's have the painful conversation, because what's happening, I don't want to have a painful conversation about my marriage. And so guess what happens? My marriage starts suffering.
Right.
And so, if you don't want to have the painful conversation with a friend, then we continue to suffer.
Right. And the friendship suffers. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything starts suffering. Yeah. God is good.
Man. Oh, man. So that's good. So Lawrence, like, what has it been for you? Like, since you've learned the language and learned, what I'm saying? Like, you've been able to name some of these things. I've seen a transformation that's literally unbelievable. Like, I don't even know who I'm talking to now. Like, this is a whole different man than I met. I'm talking about, we was cool before and I didn't know nothing about none of this stuff. So whatever you were presenting was normal. I didn't really know any different, but man, I know the difference now. Yeah. What has it been like for you to be able to name your feelings and stuff? What has that been like for you?
I can now acknowledge what's going on. There's no more just kind of getting up and trying to go about my life and my day, even though there's this ugliness within that I can't really explain. I can't really describe. I don't like it. I'm willing to go to any lengths to try to alter these feelings inside so I can feel better in these moments. Whereas now it's like, oh, okay, I don't necessarily have energy to go out and socialize because I'm sad. I didn't realize how much acknowledging that I was sad. So to back up real quick, I actually went through a rehab program. Like I said, I'm not ashamed of my journey. I'm so grateful for every space and everybody I've had to talk to finally get to this place of understanding of self. Because it's been freeing. It's been extremely freeing of this illusion, this idea of like something is wrong with me. It's like, no, there's things that are going on around me that are terrible, that suck, but there's nothing wrong with me. I just have to know I gotta have the tools to be able to fix, fight, persevere, whatever. So I'm sitting in these rooms with all these people from many different walks of life. Everybody has a story. Everybody's been through something, and it essentially just comes down to the fact, like, man, I'm sad.
Yeah.
That comes out in anger. I'm sad because I feared really going after what I wanted in life. When I felt like, oh, I'm young, this is when I'm supposed to be able to do. I'm still young now, which I realize I have an opportunity to do anything I want to, you know. But I'm sad because I didn't take that leap of faith and just go do it. I allowed other people's opinions and whatever what they think I should be doing to stop me from doing what I really want to do. And now here I am. And I got a child to take care of.
Right.
You know, I got my responsibilities have kind of kicked up a little bit, and I'm just been going through this like routine that I absolutely hate. And I'm sad because I feel like I've given up on myself. So the outside I put out anger, any little thing, I'm a snap. You know, I didn't understand what that was until recently when I was sitting in a rehab with a bunch of strangers and had a mental health professional kind of draw it out, and I saw it right there on the board. So that also allowed me when I now go to therapy to be honest. I've been very low in energy because I'm still thinking about this. It's hard for me to be happy. It's hard for me to you know, allow people to love me, you know, like this. It's almost like I feel like I'm in preschool having to use these words, these emotions. I don't know if y'all remember that chart where it was like, how do you feel today? And it has like the faces on it. It's like a angry face, a sad face.
Yes, sir.
I literally had to pull that out and look at it like, you know what? I'm sad today. I'm angry today. I'm this today. But acknowledge it. So when I'm in these moments, because you know what, it's an everyday battle, you know, dealing with life on life's terms, right? So when I'm in these moments and I feel it, I'm able to sit down and say and think like, this is what's happening right now, and this is why this is why I'm acting like this. And the fact that I can be able to think that now, I now have an opportunity to kind of like to fight again. Okay, well, we need to force ourselves. Let's get up. Let's go to the gym. Let me call somebody. You know, I mean, I popped up 6 a.m., woke my mom up out of sleep just so we could talk.
Right.
Because it was necessary.
It is.
Then she got up and talked to me.
Well, of course, because she's been waiting for that conversation.
And don't forget, she pop up at 6 a.m. and wake you up too. Just Trapp is not playing. Just Trapp, she gonna get whatever she wants, man. Go ahead, Mike. You go ahead, man. This so much is coming up for me, man. I'm like, and I keep forgetting I ain't by myself.
No, it's all good. Lawrence, I just want to follow up. You used a word early on that, at least among Black men, we don't use a lot, although we experience a lot, and that's trauma. When did you first identify that word with what you were experiencing in life as a way to, kind of what Bradley's talking about, you having language to describe what's going on? One of it's that you were sad. The other was that you had experienced trauma. When did you first realize, not that you had experienced, but that you could use that word to describe it?
When I was, I was in rehab, I had a therapist in rehab, and I remember I was letting it out. I was having like an episode of just, and she stopped me and said, she goes, "You have textbook post-traumatic stress disorder." Yeah. I'm a veteran. I've never been to war.
Right.
And it made me kind of sit back and look at her like, huh? But then when she started explaining what was going on, that's when I started realizing, no, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. And what it did is, I had a terrible, terrible accident last year that I was involved in, and I lost my girlfriend. We were riding on my motorcycle. She passed away. And I kept using that experience as this is when everything started. But when we started having these conversations about past traumas, it literally took me back to when I was 16 years old. And I had no idea that what I experienced at 16, my cousin of mine that I was really close to, who was murdered in the park that I learned how to play basketball, football. He was also a big brother to my best friend. But losing him at 16 triggered a lot of darkness within me for the next 10 plus years. And it's because I never had a space, and I never had the words to truly explain why I feel the way that I feel. Why do you always feel like you have to pop up and fight when somebody tries you? Why do you always feel tried? You know,
that part.
Right.
That part.
It's so now knowing, no, I've gone through some things. You know, when you grow up, and I grew up in the community, but you know, as y'all said before, my mother is a judge, my father is a deputy sheriff. I've never had to worry about anything. We've always had food in the house, lights always been on. We always went on trips in the summer. I was able to go to the college that I wanted to go to, not the college that we can afford to go to.
Right.
You know, there's been and they have worked so hard to provide my brother and I a really good life. So in my mind, I used to always think, well, I can't experience what some of my friends go through because one, my dad's in the picture, and I my family has money. So trauma, this, that doesn't really apply to me because, but what I know now is that definitely it can hit anybody.
Yeah.
It took me at 31 years old, Morehouse graduate. I did research on identity in college, but it took up until this point to be in a rehab for me to finally realize, like, whoa, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
Man, you mentioned, I had a father in the house, and there was a question here from April Ray directed towards you, Lawrence. Says, it sounds like he had a strong father in his life. What does he think caused him to go into the direction he did with substance abuse in his early life?
I'm gonna be really real. I just like the way substances make me feel. I remember the first time I got lit. I was like, what is going on? Whatever this is, I like it. And so I chased that. I chased it. But also, I remember when the alcohol stuff really started to become a problem. And, my dad would start trying to have these conversations with me. And I put my parents through a lot. But my dad would tell me, like, my parents are a lot older than my brother and I. He was like, you didn't know me when I was in my 20s. You didn't know me when I was a young man. And, I struggled in areas too. I got to see the improved, matured, grown version of my father, unlike my son, who's had to experience some of the craziness that that he's experienced from me going through the things that I've gone through. So even though he was present, you know what? I want to come back to that. Back to that. Ultimately, to answer the question is, I just like the way this stuff made me feel. So I chased that feeling for a long time.
That's a legit answer. You know what I'm saying? That's a legitimate answer. Sometimes it's just that simple. It's just that simple. It just, man, you know what I mean? That's a legitimate answer.
Interesting. And Bradley, you mentioned that, when you were going through some challenging times, one of the ways it manifests for you was that you started drinking more. What was it about that? Was that just to escape, or was it to make you feel better, or was it a social thing that you could hang around with different people? What was it that the alcohol was doing for you?
So the crazy part about it is I started drinking like that during COVID. So when all the social element was gone, right? I had just took on, I made rank, and I just took on the position of being like an LPO. So it was like a leading petty officer, right? So I was in charge of like 22 individuals during COVID, doing workup cycles, getting ready to take the ship get it qualified to be, seaworthy. And then on top of that, take it across the sea and go to Japan. So we're talking about people having to coordinate lives, get stuff together, making sure they do all their appointments, making sure the equipment's ready, making sure we're ready with all my other collaterals and things of that nature. So when I get home, I ain't seen the sun. I can't go outside. Everything's shut down. I'm going to come home and I'm going to have me a nice little glass of whiskey. But I started to realize I would come home, I had a glass of whiskey, and I'll pour one more. And then what I didn't finish that night, I tap off in the morning, head to work. Right? Just, because you don't waste liquor. Not good liquor. You always good liquor. It's good. So I would do all of that, right? And then after, a day or two, couple weeks, months go by, that's my regular routine. And I become dependent on taking the edge off with the alcohol instead of finding another healthy outlet. And so that really became the thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, it's so dope, man. We're already at an hour, and it's crazy because we've covered so much ground. Talk if we can, like we kind of mix some of this stuff in, and so, but the word freedom is like coming up for me right now, and I'm just curious, Lawrence, and this would be for both of y'all. Like, what does this newfound freedom look like for you? Are your problems gone now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like all you had to do was just stop drinking and like all of a sudden like you're good now? Or like what is life like for you? Not just learning the words and those kinds of things, but this freedom of not having the bondage of liquor and substances controlling you. What is that like for you now?
You kind of said it. Like, it was a point in time, that I literally felt enslaved to liquor and substances. I mean, it's brought me to my knees, begging God to remove this addictive, nature from me. How did I get here? I did not know how to manage my life without substance. And to finally break away from that, and trust me, things have not gotten easier. I got a long road ahead of me. So many things that I need to do. I need to attempt, and it's scary not knowing what to expect. But this idea of freedom now is knowing that I can comfortably go forward with an understanding that I am always one drink or one use away from going right back to where I started. But I've surrendered to the fact that no, this is who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am, but it's so freeing knowing that I can get up and attack these things, and regardless of what happens, whether it happens for me or what I don't want to happen happens, I can comfortably leave that situation, where it's at, and it's not going to affect me to the point where I feel like I have to go drink over it. Because what I've learned from using substances to help me deal with things, one of the excuses I would make is that whatever that thing was never went away.
Right.
It kind of blurred it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I wake up the next day and it starts all over again. It's a cycle, and it's a vicious cycle, but now I can go to sleep and it's like, regardless of what life throws at me, I can make peace with it and continue to go on about my life. Nothing can sit me down the way that substance used to sit me down. So that's what freedom is for me. I have the power to choose what I'm going to do, and not allow something to control, my actions, my movement, my thinking.
Man, you sound like a free man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, both of y'all. How about you, Bradley? Like, we talked about the word. You still kind of not you're like, I still want to spend, I'm doing fine. But let's talk about you. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, that's still you, and I get it. But like, what is because you seem, wherever you are on your journey, you seem like you're settling into it. Sure, you might not be exactly where you want to be, and that's fine. But you absolutely seem like you're on this journey. How does it feel? Like, what is that? What is that like for you to be on this journey? What does this freedom feel like and look like for you?
I like the word clarity. Clarity is what I'm gaining. And I just it's perspective and clarity. And that's what you really get. Because now I can understand where a person is that doesn't know how to really articulate how they feel. And I understand the person that has all this great. I was like, that's good for you. I'm glad you have all this great vision. And I just become happy where I am. Like I realize progress is a step at a time. No matter how you paint that thing, as long as I'm doing better than I was yesterday, I'll be all right. And that's really what I'm settling into. It's, I never really just struggled with alcohol to that degree, but I don't think alcohol was my particular thing, but people are a substance for me. And it frees me from people. Because I always feel like if I'm helping somebody else, then my problems don't really exist that much. And so now it's like, nope, I don't need to save you from that. You need to go through that. I can pray for you. I don't need to show up and handle that problem with you. Absolutely right. So I'm realizing as I start creating those boundaries and letting people deal with their stuff, because you got to find out who God is on your own. If I'm always there, how he gonna fill the room? So guess what? I'm gonna let my absence be his invitation. I keep moving, and that's been good for me.
Dog.
Let me wait. Let me find my Bible real quick because I am sure the writer is going to come out in just a second. Let me get one of these. What book are we going to open up today, preacher? What? Let my absence be his invitation. Good night, Irene.
Mm-hmm. I think that's real. I think that's real for a lot of people. If you stop showing up for people, quote unquote, not because you are rejecting them, you just give them space to seek the right answers from the right person. That'll be it. And it's not you. That's not abandonment. Honestly, that's empowerment. You just got to get there.
I don't know, Mike. Mike like to give offerings too, man. Pass the plate so Mike can. Mike, I know he got some 20s. He tips well, man. Go on and break these dudes off some money, Mike. You know I ain't got none.
Give me your Venmo, man.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Y'all wow.
What's the QR code I need to scan? But Bradley, help us understand how you got to that place where you realized, was it therapy? Was it your reading? What was it that got you to that place where you realized that people were your addiction? People interacting with people, being the people's problem solver was your way of avoiding dealing with your own problems to solve. How did you identify that? And then how are you working to make sure you don't fall back into that trap? Because that's an easy one to do. Because when people know you as that reputation, it's like knowing that you're the person that sells the weed. Everybody's going to come to calling you. Why? Because Bradley got what I need. That's why everybody calls Bradley. Let me ask a different question. How do you say no to people that knew you as the guy that they could come to?
Ooh.
Man, that somebody told me. Matter of fact, I think it was my first lady. I had pulled First Lady Mo. I had pulled her aside one day, and I was just like, because I was volunteering for the RE3 ministry, which is our mental health ministry in church. Yep. But before I did it, I was like, I already got a lot on my plate right now. How do I kind of deal with this? And I know she's real good about it. So I pulled her aside. I was like, look, I have this, and this going on. Blah, 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 blah. I just told her everything. Matter of fact, it was at our Q picnic. I just told her, you know what I'm saying? I pulled her off to the side and she looked at me and she was like, I need you to learn that no is a complete sentence. And I sat with that. And I said, you are absolutely right. She was like, you don't have to be there for everybody. And then as I'm talking to my therapist, which I prayed about, because I wanted a black therapist. I was like, I want a black therapist, you know what I'm saying, male, black therapist. I was like, Lord, I need that. And they were not available. And I prayed. And I have this 61-year-old white woman who has helped me tremendously. And, and she sat me down and just to realize like, this is how you create these boundaries in life, right? Realize like, what do you need? What do you need what do you run to when you need to feel empowered? Right? Are you running to your drink? Are you running to women? Are you running to porn? What are you running to? And once you realize what you're running to, stop. Like just sit back, see what you do for a minute. Like just sit back and see what you do, and then like redirect to something a little bit more positive. Sometimes it's good to go to the gym, go for a run. You know what I'm saying? Create, and just not be available. I had this thing where I always had to answer my phone when somebody called because I don't want to not. No. It's okay for people to miss a phone call. My boy John Rollins, I'll never forget. He tells me all the time. He's like, it's okay for people to miss your phone call. It's okay to have a missed call. It's everybody doesn't deserve your right now text. That's not, they're not that. And so once you start putting that in perspective, you realize, oh, they figured it out without me. And they'll do it again.
Right.
So I get to blame John and whoever else. Oh, that's fine. Every time I call and it goes to voicemail. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, that's what we doing. This is a boundary. Oh, you okay? Yeah, I figured it out.
Sometimes I just can't answer the phone. That's a real thing. Yeah.
Nope. You can't tell me. You leave me and my truth alone. I'm gonna do what I want to do. Yeah. Oh,
he's told on himself now.
Man, he's trying to tell me something. Well, I tell you something. Yeah.
I hope they free somebody. I hope they really free somebody.
My therapist, I can't remember the exact word that she used for that, but when you said that, it reminded me. I take notes when I'm in therapy, and I'm gonna think about it in just a second and come back to it. But there's a term for that, for not like responding right away. She's distress tolerance around impulsivity. It's called reinforcing impulses. So she's like, when you do that, part of this is like to like stop and like, if your phone is here and you decide I'm gonna grab my phone and get on it, if I just do it right away, and every time that thought comes, I do it right away, I'm creating a pattern. I'm creating a behavior so that my body literally says every time I think, and this is me not controlling my thoughts this is me being totally out of control. So what I've learned is when I feel like grabbing the phone, she said, just pause. Just what you said. Just don't reach for it. You have to. And I start thinking about, my brain is like a little kid sometimes. My brain is like a little child that like, I want what I want right now. And I want self-gratification immediately. And it's immediately. Like, you know what I mean? So, man, this is good. This is, this has been super, super good. I just have one more question personally that I would love to ask you. And it, you started off with this, Bradley, and Lawrence, just FYI, Kilborn Preston, Kilborn, he went to high school with your mom. So he's my partner or whatever. I cut his hair every Sunday morning. I've been cutting his hair every Sunday morning since 1990, every week since 1993. I've known him for a long time. That's my guy. And he went to school with your mom. Yeah. Cool. But you said something when you first started, Bradley, and you said friendship is essential to the soul. That's sticking out to me. You said that. And I want to, I guess, kind of talk about real quick, what does friendship mean to you? What is that? Why do you say that? Why is that such why is that a catalyst? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's definitely important. You made it clear when you said that, like, that was a road that you went on. Just why did you lead with that? I guess that's what I'll ask.
one, that is the motto of our fraternity, right? Friendship is essential to the soul because it is. I value friendship because I heard it. Out of all the things that Jesus could decide to call us, the one thing I've always took pride in is that he wanted to call us friend. Like friends are this really weird thing because friends can stick closer than a brother, right? Friends are chosen family. Every friend that you have is optional. And then somehow they become necessity. Right. That's a really interesting concept to me. All right, brothers you're born with, right? Sisters you're born with, mothers, fathers, like you're born with them, right? I think the Bible said brothers are born for adversity. Like that's just what it is. But friends are chosen. And that is a big thing to me. I think friendship is the thing that keeps us connected. Um, and I understand that sometimes in friendships, you're going to be more friend to another person than anyone else, right? That's it. It happens like that because I think the premise of friendship truly is love. It is a love for a person that you don't know from anybody off the street until y'all just get to bond and be bored together and struggle together and do work together. That means a lot to me, man, because you don't, and as you get older, you start filtering through. And it's only when you sip that sand of time, man, it's only a few friends that rise to the top with you. So
Right.
it means a lot.
Wow.
Amen.
So that's the motto of your fraternity. So how about you, Lawrence? What has those relationships? Because truly, I would imagine, besides a mother, and mothers can be friendly too, but friendship is not. But what has those friendships and those things meant to you in your journey to where you are right now? Speak about friendship from your perspective. What does that mean for you?
Like Brother Bradley said that you two, like your friends are like your chosen family members, and I have, there's some people on this earth that have loved me through every phase that I've been through in my life, and that have shown me over and over again that it don't matter what it is, what I did, whatever, they're willing to go to battle. They're willing to go into battle with me each and every time, just for the simple fact that they are my friend, and I really think that friends, you need friends in moments, because family is great. I know I've talked a lot about my mother and I'm so grateful for her, grateful for my family, grateful for my family, but friends, I feel like you're able to really keep it really real with, if I'm gonna be honest. I remember, more recently, I called you. I consider you a friend. Mm-hmm. And I told you some things that I have never spoken out loud. Mm-hmm. And just that alone freed me of so much. It gave me that much more willingness to be able to continue to do what needs to be done to as I navigate this journey. There's some things I just can't talk to my parents about. Something I can't, there's some things I can't even tell my brother about because they've known me a certain kind of way my whole life. But a friend, somebody that can keep your secrets and that you can really trust. And we kind of talked about that earlier today. Just like, people that you can really trust. That allows you to grow.
Amen.
Whew. Mike, take us home, man. Golly, man. This is like being at the buffet at the casino. You know what I'm saying? That joker just long and wide. You know what I'm saying? You just like, man, I want to I want some of that over there. And I don't even eat that, but I'm gonna try that. And the dessert section is huge.
Amen.
Man, but man,
Yeah,
go on and take us home, man. Golly.
We were talking about it last night, and I said, I wanted this space to be somewhat similar to being at the barbershop, right? And having a conversation. And I joked about, when the conversation's good, even when that chair opens up, you're like, hang on a second. I'm going to keep in the middle of this conversation. And that's how I feel right now. I see the clock because we can see it on our end. I'm like, man, it's been 80 minutes. Okay. We need to start to wrap this up, but I don't want to stop the conversation. So let me end it or start to wind it up this way. Let me ask each of you, knowing who you were at your lowest, whenever that was for you, whether that was you, Bradley, when you were going to that period where it was dark when you were leaving in the morning and dark when you were coming home at night and all that stuff, and you weren't really dealing with some stuff. And if it was physical, you would have seen it. Like my clothes were a little tight. Or Lawrence, maybe for you when you were 16 and your cousin died and you didn't really feel like you had a way to discuss that with anybody. If you could go back and talk to those younger versions of yourself, what piece of advice would you give that younger version of you, Bradley, that was struggling during that time, based on what you know now, looking back on it and said, I can go back in a time machine and I get to whisper to this brother for 30 seconds or a minute. Here's what I need you to know. And I got to go back to 2025 in a bit. And they're going to see it's okay because they see you now and know they got through. But what piece of advice would you give yourself, Bradley? And then Lawrence, the same question for you. What piece of advice would you give that 16-year-old boy that was struggling with the loss of his cousin?
I would say grace. Give yourself grace. Just because those things can go on your shoulders doesn't mean it belongs there, right? Just because your phone ring don't mean you have to answer that joint at all times. I would say resources. Use all of them. The Navy has a lot of resources. My church, they have a lot of resources. There are so many numbers I can call, so many people I can talk to, programs I can enter, classes that are being given. And I think I think he would have benefited, especially from that. And knowing that there was a place to go, somebody to talk to, and grace to be given. That would have changed his life so much.
Amen. Lawrence, how about you?
I'm thinking back to my 16-year-old self and even recently my 31-year-old self. First and foremost, that you will be okay. It's tough as it may seem, and not knowing what to expect, you will be okay, and that there is life after trauma.
Damn.
And you know who you are. Don't lose sight of that. I know who I am.
You are. Wow. And I apologize, Jason. I said that was going to be the last question. Let me ask one more.
You ain't got to, man. Hey, don't threaten me with a good time, huh? One thing I'm not right now is tired. Man, listen.
Bradley, I want you to talk about RE3. You mentioned it just briefly as part of what the church says to baby, but talk a little bit about that mental health program.
Man, RE3 is amazing. It is offered at Bayview Baptist Church or Bayview Church. We offer 6 weeks free therapy. That doesn't matter if it's grief, doesn't matter if it's marriage counseling, doesn't matter if you're just feeling off. We offer those. You submit it. It's completely free. They set you up with a counselor. You have confidentiality in there. You're good to go. And it's transformative. I've heard a lot of testimonies and seen a lot of things myself from people who have benefited from it. I went through the training myself, so we're trained in a lot of cool techniques just to be able to infuse Bible and infuse practical steps to help you get to where you need. And it can be done. You just by going to Baby Baptist Church, looking for RE3, clicking on there, you can fill out the little Google Doc, submit what you need to submit. The only person that sees that is First Lady, right? And she will pair you, find you with a person. And it's not like they just pair you with somebody. There's a whole process. When I get your application, I'm praying over it before I call you. I'm praying over it while we in there. Like we really trying to get that thing down and dial back. And the great thing about it is we can lead you to other people outside if you choose to continue on. And if 6 weeks ain't enough, let us know before then, and we can extend you out. So it's an awesome program. I encourage people to use the resources around you. And we're not the only church that offers something similar to this. So if you don't want to go to Bayview for whatever reason, hit us up. We can definitely get you linked in with the Rock Church. Somebody somewhere can give you some access.
Amen. Jason, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, you know, as we always say, man, one of the things that Mike promised God is that this podcast would never shy away from talking about God's goodness and what God means to him, to us. It's not a requirement to be on the show. That's a fact. But is a requirement for us to do the show. Scripture says it's better not to make a vow to God than to make one and not keep it. And so we vowed every week that we'd pray and thank God for what he's done. And before I do, I just want to say thank you to Sarah and Leslie, April, to Preston, to everybody else that popped in, the folks that have or will watch on YouTube, folks that will watch this afterwards. I know for a fact that this particular episode added some value to people's lives. We've had some dope conversations. And I it's unfair to even say this is my favorite or whatever, because it's not even about that. But one thing I know is that this was rich. I know that. I know that this was rich and it was thick. And so I'm just super grateful to both of you men for coming on here. Mike said, hey man, you'll see, like, man, when the cues come, it's going to be something different. And now I believe him. And so I just want to say thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Bradley. Very, very grateful. The Omega Psi Fraternity Incorporated is greater because of you two men being there. I hope that the things that you're doing outside are able to be done with some of the folks that you deal with inside of the brotherhood that you have. Very, very grateful that you both decided to come spend some time with us tonight. And so, as we always do, I just want to close in prayer. I'm going to ask you brothers to stay on after we end. I'm going to ask you guys to stay on afterwards. So, Dad, I just want to say thank you. I'm grateful for these men, grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for their lives. Thank you for the way that you intersect people in the midst of what they're going through. You are a master interrupter, and I'm just grateful for that. Thank you for the way that you're gentle with our trauma, but at the same time confrontational, and it's good. I thank you for their testimonies, for their stories. Thank you for the growth that I've seen in both of these men, for the relationships that I have with all three of these men. I thank you, as I do every week, for the vision that you gave to Mike to have this space where just regular brothers could just come and just talk about how you feel. Just a conversation that is just not had enough in our communities. And so I thank you for their boldness and for their heart to change. I pray that some people will be blessed after listening to this. I know that I was. I know that Mike was. And I know that they will be. And so lastly, I just want to ask that you watch over them tonight as they sleep. Sometimes when we unload these things happen. And thought about it. Things happen in our lives. And I just pray that they would continue to recognize the anchor that they have in you. So thanks for everything that you do in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you all again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Next week, we got on Mike's fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And we can't wait. I think Mike might be have his organizational shirt on and stuff, I'm gonna be surrounded. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just wear a black shirt with nothing on it. I'm gonna just look like a straight on here. You know what I mean? I'm gonna wear something rebellious. I'm gonna wear something with bagpipes on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna wear something with bagpipes. But looking forward to seeing y'all again next week. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We love y'all a lot. Appreciate you. God bless.
All right, peace.
Bro.
Peace. Big